Hello, everyone. Sarah here. We're going to be diving into today the topic and the concept of why you continue to engage in unhealthy habits, even though you know they're keeping you from growing. You have this desire to grow, this desire to change, this desire to expand, this desire to have the things that you want that maybe you've never had. And why, when you start to even move that direction or get close towards achieving that, why you stop, why you go back, why you go back to the old ways, what changes, and why you continue to go back to things that you know are bad for you, why you continue to engage in unhealthy habits, even though you know, and you know that you know they're keeping you from growing, keeping you from getting the things that you want because you've got that. So it's not that you're without something. And oftentimes we feel like we're just empty, or we feel this fear of being alone. And we think, well, if I just stay in this relationship, even though I know it's bad, I'm going to stay in the bad relationship until I find the good one. Where's the room? Where's the space for the good relationship or the healthy relationship to come into place? If that space and that place is being taken by the unhealthy relationship or by the unhealthy habits, if you have a habit of finding yourself in very toxic, abusive, manipulative relationships, yet you continue to stay in those, or you continue to manifest those or attract those, and it's like, why do I always do this? And maybe you'll say, you know what, I'm just not going to date for a while, I'm just not going to be in relationships for a while. Or this is a relationship with anything. This can be in relationship with your physical health, with your mental health, with your emotional health. You take a couple steps forward and you think, okay, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna stay here, but I'm not where I want to be. Oh, look at that. And then you go back and it feels like you're constantly taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And even though there's forward movement and growth, it's like, well, there's also movement in another direction. So there's movement in all sorts of directions. And you wonder, why is it that every time I move forward, it's followed with a moving back? Because that's what's going to keep you stuck in this dance. Where yes, you feel like you're moving, you're growing, you're changing, you're evolving, but you're going a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit this way, a little bit this way. And it's like this dance that you get stuck in. And yes, life is a journey. And yes, healing is an evolution and a process, but it shouldn't be the process of being stuck in that space of moving forward 2 steps, moving back 3 steps, or 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back, because it feels like you're doing this square dance. And you're moving, but you're really not moving anywhere. So if you find that you're stuck in that space, you're more than likely finding that you're stuck in the space of self-sabotage and self-defeating behaviors. Self-sabotage, self-defeating behaviors have all to do with the beliefs you have about yourself. Notice they all start with self. And a lot of times we feel like it's selfish to work on ourselves because we want to change things about ourselves. And if we want to change things about ourselves, is that admitting or believing that we don't believe that we're good enough? Shouldn't we just believe that we're good enough, believe that we're fully loved, and there's nothing we need to change about ourselves? Shouldn't we fully accept ourselves? So sometimes it feels like to work on yourself feels selfish. But if you're engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors and self-defeating behaviors, you're really engaging in self-harm. Those things are very, very harmful to the self. And if you're engaging in things that are harmful to the self, you're not engaging in self-love or self-acceptance. And that's where so many of us, we want to be there. We want to be there now. We want to be there yesterday. We want to be in self-love. And we know, oh, the key to breaking out of this and getting into that is loving yourself. How do you love yourself? Well, you certainly don't love yourself every time you engage in self-sabotaging behaviors. That's a pattern and form of self-defeat, of self-harm. Even a thought that you have about yourself that's negative goes against a positive thought you can have about yourself, and it kind of cancels the other one out. And we've got goals and we've got dreams and aspirations and desires, and those are supposed to be positive and expansive and exciting and things that we move towards because they are. But then there may come a belief that says, well, are you not appreciative for where you're at now? You should be fine with being with where you're at now, because it's that state of gratitude in the present moment that actually moves you towards that. But it can feel like, but I'm just staying here. I'm just stuck in this. And that can leave us to believing and experiencing that this is it. Doesn't get any better than this, or I shouldn't want that because wanting something different than what I've currently got makes me selfish. And then I feel bad and I feel guilty. And when we feel bad and we feel guilty, it's much easier to engage in self-defeating and self-sabotaging and self-harming behavior. So we're going to get into what some of those behaviors and habits and thoughts and patterns are today. Many of them you're going to go, yeah, Sarah, I know I do this all the time. I'm really only watching this video to figure out how to not do these things because I'm sick and tired of myself. I'm sick and tired of doing these things. I'm sick and tired of being stuck in these patterns of self-sabotaging, self-defeating, self-harming. I want to get out of my own way. I'm sick and tired of being dependent on so many other people or videos or books or programs. I just want to get out of my own head and I want to get into that space where I have one foot in gratitude and in this present moment and contentment and not feel bad for having another foot in, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, because then it feels like I'm not all in. And if I'm not all in, then how am I ever going to get it? Isn't that what you need? You need to be all in gratitude, all in acceptance, all in self-love. You can't have a little bit of self-love and a little bit of that, right? Well, if you don't have both, then you don't have growth. So there needs to be an awareness and consciousness of gratitude and joy for the present moment and where you're at, and also a desire to move forward, to get out of this and into that, out of this and into that. So that's why it feels like a dance, a journey, and evolution. But if you're stuck and going back and back and back to old habits, back to old patterns, back into self-harm, you're stuck in the limiting, negative, and constricting emotional beliefs that you have about yourself and about being in that flow and being in that journey, being in the evolution and the growth and the dance that needs to take place in order for you to navigate and move towards the things that you deserve and desire, and out of the self-harm, the self-defeating beliefs, and the self-sabotage. Because if we notice their patterns, their behaviors that move you away from the goals that you've set, and those are what have you experience the pull towards those steps that take you back. So these behaviors, they're often distractions, they're often distracting, they're self-sabotaging. And when we get pulled back to those, we get pulled back to this energy and this experience of feeling emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted, completely drained, and into this space of continuously beating ourselves up, feeling bad about ourselves. It's like we put this self-pity party dress on. How long have you felt like you've been wearing the self-pity party dress? Probably far too long. So self-defeating behaviors, self-harming behaviors, self-sabotaging behaviors, there's so much out there about how those are a defense mechanism, a coping mechanism, a protective mechanism. Generally, they're keeping us from experiencing fear, disappointment, let down, feeling the anger that we don't want to feel, because all the things we don't want to feel, all the things that we want to avoid feeling, it's like a barrier. This mechanism that keep me away from that. Because when we get too close to it, we start to experience different emotions around it. And we start to experience different kinds of pressure within ourselves, pressure to perform, pressure from others. We want to stay away from the pressure. And when we move a little bit towards it, but then we move back to the thing that we're comfortable and familiar with. And we move away from the feeling of pressure and the demand. So we just go back to the things that harm ourselves because, that just felt like too much pressure. I just didn't know if I could handle it. And this isn't a conscious process. This is a very unconscious process. We don't even know we're doing it until we've done it. And so how can we break out of that if we don't even know that we're doing it until we've done it? What can we do to stop it, fix it, or change it? Well, we got to get to the thing that's keeping us in it. And the thing that's keeping us in everything that we do are the inner beliefs that we have about ourselves, the unconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves. That is why when I'm working with people, we're working with what's going on internally and unconsciously. We're getting to the very core and the root of it. We're getting to what's underneath the surface, not just what we can see. You can see the habits, you can see the patterns, you can see the behaviors that you have, you know the things that you do, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's causing you to do those things. So those are the things that they're really happening internally and unconsciously. The things that you do when you get close to what you want. oh, then I pull away and then I just stop. Then I procrastinate. And then I go back to, I'll find myself in a relationship or I'll find myself saying this or doing this. And I go back to this comfort zone. I find myself drinking again. I find myself like I get off the protocol. Maybe it's a relationship that you have with your health and your body. Maybe it is that you start making excuses for why you can't work out anymore. And then you get back into the comfort zone of saying, oh, I'll go tomorrow and putting it off and delaying it. So this all impacts how you feel about yourself, your self-confidence, your self-worth. If you're self-sabotaging, maybe you're sabotaging an opportunity that you have. And you find that when you get really, really close to it, and it's that thing that you've been working so hard for, you know what? No, never mind. And you talk yourself into and you convince yourself that you never even wanted it in the first place. Yet there's a part of you so deep inside that knows, are you kidding me? You have been dreaming about this forever. And now you're telling yourself you don't even want it because you're close to having it. And this can happen in your career. This can happen in your friendships. This can happen in your relationships. It can happen in every area of your life. And some people feel that these behaviors are impossible to resist. They feel this energetic pull towards them and away from the things that they want. And then they feel like they're going crazy. This is crazy making, because in a way it is. So we're going to dive into the most common self-defeating behaviors. And we go into this in my free masterclass and we get into the healing from what causes these, the very core and the very root, and my transforming past pain to present power program. So I invite you to join our masterclass if you're interested in that. Or if you're really interested in just getting to what it is that's truly going on within you, seeing for a good fit to work together one-to-one. But until then, let's get into some of the most common self-defeating behaviors. And these are physical neglect and mental neglect. You run and numb is what I call it, where you physically neglect yourself. You know that you need to take better care of your body physically. You know you need to eat well. You know you need to exercise. You know you need to stop binging out on alcohol and unhealthy foods and unhealthy habits and ways, but you just continuously say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later. Next year, I'm gonna wait because it's hard to get through the holidays. So I'm just gonna wait till next year and then I'm gonna hit the ground running. Even though you hate running and you're thinking, yeah, no, I'm not gonna run unless it's away from a bear. I'm not, that's just not my thing. And then you find that you're stuck in these patterns. The most common way that people neglect themselves is physically. The things that we put into our body, right? And there's a saying, you are what you eat. Well, if you were to really take a look at the way that you treat yourself physically, what is it showing? What is the mirror reflection that you're seeing about yourself? Are you stuffing yourself with numbing agencies, with alcohol, with drugs, with food that's unhealthy for you? And where, if there is there a balance of taking care of yourself physically or mentally? Most people can understand, no, I take good physical care of myself, but how are you taking care of yourself mentally? Mental neglect. Mental neglect is such a real thing. And it is all to do with what we believe about ourselves. Most of us mentally beat ourselves up consistently all day, every day. We tell ourselves how bad we suck and how dare we and what's wrong with us and why do we always do that? We are beating ourselves up mentally consistently. And when you do that, no wonder you feel beat down, broken down, completely, that there's nothing left of you because you're mentally neglecting to provide yourself with the things that you need that will build you up. And you're giving yourselves the things that beat you up instead. And this leads to self-criticism. When you look in the mirror and you see yourself, what do you say about yourself? What are the thoughts that you have? And criticizing yourself physically, telling yourself, well, this isn't good enough. And if only I had enough money, I would go change this and make this bigger and make that smaller. Self-criticism is a form of beating ourselves up. And it's a form of a self-defeating behavior. Then there's what I call the P me, the perfectionist and the procrastinator, the one that delays what I'm going to do tomorrow by not doing it today. And then saying, well, if I'm going to do it, it's got to be perfect, because if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. And this perception of perfectionism, who is it that we're saying is calling it perfect? Is it someone outside of us? And if they say that anything is wrong with it, then that's a reflection of what we believe about ourselves, or something wrong with me. So we get stuck in this perfectionism, and that is such a common self-defeating behavior and pattern that so many people have, and it leads us into that self-pity party and wearing our self-pity party dress everywhere we go, and then wondering why we just don't want to be here anymore, why it feels so hard to be here because we're wearing our self-pity party dress. What if we were to take that on and put on the dress of success? Screw perfectionism, because what is perfectionism? It's in the eye of the beholder, is it not? You can look at it and go, wow, that's perfect. And someone else can come along and go, what are you talking about? That's a piece of garbage. And you can think, oh, I worked so hard on that. I put my heart and soul into it. And they can go, well, you suck. And then everything, everything can just go out the window. So are you still wearing your self-pity party dress? And if so, there's a direct correlation and a direct connection to the unconscious beliefs that you have about yourself, those times from the past when you experienced self-pity for the first time and how bad it felt. And now you're continuously feeling that bad about yourself because of the perception that other people have that it's not perfect. And the procrastination. These are both what I call the P me. And again, we get into that into the free masterclass that I have, and into healing from the very core and root of what causes these, and to transforming past pain to present power. And in that, you're going to receive a powerful, powerful rapid transformational therapy session, a self-guided one that takes you into the ways that you compare yourselves to others, the criticism, the judgment, the comparison. Well, if they're this and I'm not that, I need to be more like that in order to be liked, to be loved, to be successful. This constant comparison wheel that we're spinning on. That's one of the top self-defeating behaviors. All of these are the top because they're all the things that we do to defeat ourselves and beat ourselves up, this comparing ourselves to others. And when we don't feel that we measure up or that we're good enough, we withdraw, we pull back, we alienate. There's self-isolation. And we feel like a turtle who pulls back and retreats back into its shell, withdrawals from hanging out with the other turtles. I just want to go be like them, but I'm going to be over here in the corner because I don't feel that I'm good enough to be over there playing with them. We alienate. We feel like we're an alien. We feel like we're an outsider. We feel like people are looking at us like we've got 5 eyes and this weird slimy green body, even though we can physically look at ourselves and say, no, that's not what's going on. But there's this experience of it being that way. We feel like we're an alien and an outsider, this invader. It feels like someone has invaded our body and our mind and they're controlling it. And that's what happens when you're still living presently with experiences from emotional abuse and neglect in the past. It all comes back and it influences our perception and our experience of our present moment. It causes us so often to engage in risky behaviors. And oftentimes this shows up in close and personal relationships. We're engaging in risky behaviors, in behaviors where after we engage in, we feel so disgusted with ourselves. We feel so ashamed of ourselves. We beat ourselves up even more. And that doesn't feel good. And we wonder again, what is wrong with me? And then it simply becomes this perpetual cycle. And oftentimes it has you lead to this perpetual cycle of just watching videos and reading a million books because you refuse help. Because there's perception that if I seek help, I'll feel worse. I'll be made to feel like I can't be helped. And the times in the past when I did seek help, it didn't work. Chances are it didn't work because you were only addressing it at the conscious level, at the symptom level, working with the symptoms, working with the symptoms of anxiety, the symptoms of depression, the symptoms of PTSD, the symptoms of CPTSD. There was a disconnection to what was really going on internally and unconsciously. There was just let's label this. Let's give you this exercise. Let's give you this activity when you experience this, but that's just a symptom. So a lot of times people will avoid really getting true help, really getting to the core and the root of it because they've tried to in the past, or they worked with someone who they felt like didn't understand them, didn't help them, made them feel worse about themselves and their experience and their situation and what they were going through. Or they were really just there to listen and didn't really do anything else. So this oftentimes leads to us refusing help, because receiving help means admitting defeat. It means admitting there's something wrong with me. If I need help for this, that means there's something wrong with me. And I don't want to believe that there's something wrong with me, but I do when I need help with it. So that's also a self-defeating behavior, is refusing help and just trying to figure it out yourself. Well, the self that is trying to figure it out is also the self that is experiencing what's going on unconsciously. And you can't get to that yourself. Your conscious mind goes, nope. And it puts up a defense mechanism, a coping mechanism, and a protective mechanism. So then we'll do things like overspend, overeat, overindulge in things that are unhealthy for us. This shows up constantly with the people that I connect with and work with. They find, well, you know what? I've gotten addictive. I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted to this brand. I'm addicted to shopping to this. I'm addicted to going here. I'm addicted to spending too much money. And I know I'm in debt and I want to get out of that because of the things I went through in my past. But I just want to go shopping. And when we do that, when we engage in behaviors like that, we're trying to fill an emotional void with things outside of us. We're trying to fill our feelings that we don't want to feel. We're avoiding feeling them. And then we overspend, we overindulge, we over everything. And then we're still left with that void. And now you're also left with debt, with financial debt, because you've overspent or you've overdrank or you've overindulged. Now you're left with this overindulgence of things that you don't want to feel. This leads to relationship sabotage. The most important and significant relationship that becomes sabotaged is the relationship that you have with yourself. And when the relationship you have with yourself is sabotaged, that is going to be projected onto all of the other relationships you have, the relationships you have with close partners, with intimate partners, with your family, with your friends, with your children. When the relationship you have with yourself is sabotaged, there's going to be a projection of the sabotaging of relationships that you have with everyone else. Because how you treat yourself is how you treat everyone else. And a lot of times people who are still carrying emotional wounds and baggage from the past, they overgive and they overshare, but they don't overgive and overshare because they love to. There's oftentimes this, what's in it for me? What am I going to get from you? And even though it's unspoken and unsaid, you will give and give and give and give because you want to be given to. But the people that you're giving that time, energy, and effort to are not the kind of people who are going to reciprocate it back to you, because there's an inner belief that you don't deserve to be receiving that. So you give it in hopes that you receive it. And then when you feel or find that you don't, because of the type of person you've given it to, you develop anger, you develop resentment, and this keeps you stuck in the pattern of self-defeating and self-harming thoughts and behaviors. So that needs to be broken up, because that also leads to self-harm, drug and alcohol use, and all of the things that you want to get out of. So you can start by identifying the behaviors and the patterns in your life that are getting in the way of you achieving your goals. But if you really want to get to what's going on internally and experience that insight, and not just the insight of the changing and the breaking of the behavior, but removing of what's going on that's causing that, you've got to get to what it is internally and unconsciously. Otherwise, you'll find that you continue to simply experience it over and over and over again. And that's what leads to this self-defeating beliefs of, this is just life. This is the way that it is. Yes, you're always going to have thoughts. Yes, you're always going to have things that you do, but they don't always need to come from a self-harming place. There is a way of being and a way of living that you can live from a place of it coming from a place of pure compassion, understanding, grace, kindness, empathy, forgiveness for yourself, and giving yourself what you really, really deserve and desire without needing to take 3 steps back every time. So when you're ready for that, I'd love to connect. I've mentioned the free masterclass that you can join and become a part of. You can also jump right into transforming past pain to present power, or book a call to see if we're in alignment to work together one-to-one. But if you notice that you are stuck in this rut of self-defeating, self-harming patterns and behaviors, and you're ready to break free, you're ready to change, you're ready to truly transform from within, then I would love to connect with you. Until next time, sending you so much love. Bye for now.